Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with the movie for What If Naruto ate the Tori no Mi. And you guys have been asking me forever to complete this series, so it is finally here in a movie format for you all to enjoy. And real quick, before I get into this, in the pinned comment should be a link to sign up for Surf. Guys, we all know Google sells your data. Well, you can get some of that money back with Surf. So more info on that should be in the pinned comment. But yeah, if you also want to vibe with the community, talk with me, you can join the Discord link in the description. And yeah, I hope you guys will, of course, go on to enjoy this. What if? So we start this what if off in One Piece, and right now there is a massive clash between Blackbeard and the world government, and without knowing it, Marco would find himself right in the middle of all of this without any allies, and he would unfortunately die. But the reincarnation cycle of his fruit is a bit different from other devil fruits because it's a mythical type fruit, so instead of appearing in a random location in his world, it would appear in a random location throughout the entire anime verse. So we switch to Naruto currently running through the forest, and a group of older villagers are trying to keep up with him, and one of them yell, "Get back here, you brat!" And Naruto quickly maneuvered through the trees and lost them in no time, and he hid behind one of the trees, and he hears the footsteps of the group of villagers walk right past him. So Naruto thought to himself, I need to get stronger and quick so people can finally respect me. At least I'm starting the academy next year, and maybe it'll be a better birthday present than today. So Naruto got up and started walking back to the village, but Naruto, he saw something purple on one of the tree branches, and it looked like some weird fruit. And he was curious, so he climbed up to the top of the tree and grabbed it. And Naruto looked at it, and it had some weird spiral patterns on it, and it was blue with yellow accents. And it didn't look like any fruit he had ever seen before. But Naruto, his belly started to rumble, and he remembered how the chase that he was just in started when he was in the middle of eating some ramen. So it's been hours since Naruto has eaten, and he's starving. So Naruto thought that, nothing's bad gonna happen. Worst case scenario, it tastes bad. So Naruto, he took a massive bite out of it and swallowed it almost whole, and Naruto started coughing up, rubbing his tongue, trying to get the taste off because it was horrible. Think of the worst thing you've ever eaten and times that by 100. So after a minute, Naruto, he decided to go home, but when he started walking, he heard the villagers coming back, and because he was there for too long, they already gave up and were going back home. And at the last minute, they saw Naruto try to hide behind a tree, but Naruto, he felt someone grab his shoulder, and the oldest villager there, he said, "Looky what we got here." And also, I don't know why I'm giving the villagers a Texan accent, just roll with it. "So you thought you could hide, huh?" Then he tied a rope around Naruto's hands and feet and threw him on the ground. And the man said, "Let's get back to town to make sure we celebrate your birthday right." And Naruto was squirming around, and the people carrying him kept getting mad and just throwing Naruto against the ground on his face. But while they were still in the forest, they had a ways to go to get out of it. And Naruto bit the hand of the guy that was carrying him, and he screamed in pain. And he turned around and said, "That's it." And he took out a kunai and shoved it right into Naruto's side and pulled it out. And Naruto, he winced in pain and gritted his teeth. Then blue and yellow flames appeared at Naruto's wound and healed it completely. The four villagers, they were confused, but the oldest one spoke up again and said, "Why are you all surprised? He's the damn QB. Obviously he has some kind of healing abilities or whatever. Kazuko, just stop being scared and go get the kid and let's go." So the villagers went to pick Naruto up again, but Naruto used all of his strength and broke through the rope, and Naruto himself was surprised he was even able to do that. That was just the last thing that was there for him to do, so he took the chance. But what Naruto didn't know is that the devil fruit provided him with an increase in strength, stamina, and durability. And the villager tried punching Naruto, but he dodged and punched him across the face. And with one punch, he knocked him out. Call Naruto One Punch Man. So the other three looked at Naruto, and two took up stones while the main guy took out the same kunai from earlier, and they all rushed Naruto, and him being a kid stood little chance. And Naruto got stabbed and had rocks thrown at him, and it was painful, the worst pain he had ever experienced. But with the Kyuubi's chakra and the flames of regeneration, Naruto's healing potential is just broken at this point. Naruto grabbed the kunai the villager was holding, and he pulled the villager towards him and punched him across the face. And the reason why he was able to do that is when he grabbed the kunai, his hand just started healing, so it was basically almost no pain. So after finishing off the main guy, Naruto turned his attention to the last two villagers who got scared and started running away. And with this chance, Naruto, he booked it straight home, taking every shortcut he knew to avoid bumping into any villagers. And Naruto ran into his apartment and slammed the door shut and leaned up against it and started sliding down to the ground. And he just sat there wondering what the hell he just experienced. And Naruto would recognize how he could heal so quickly, so he started putting his abilities to the test, doing different things like poking himself with a kunai, and he watched as the flames appear and heal it completely without any blood being drawn. That's how quickly the wound closed up. But Naruto's test wouldn't be much more than this. He was just a kid, he thought it was cool. So we switch perspectives real quick to Hiruzen, and he's at his desk filling out paperwork. Then he gets a knock at his office door and he just says, "Come in." And the two villagers run in out of breath because when they escaped Naruto, they had requested to meet with the Hokage, and they surprisingly got their request got approved, because most villagers, they would have to go through like a week process to get all of the paperwork approved. But these were some high-ranking members of the civilians. They owned many stores, so that's why the time was so short. So when they get into Hiruzen's office, they started explaining everything that happened in great detail, and after they finish, Hiruzen said, this is worrisome. The fact that you would hunt down a kid like a wild animal. And the men said, "Wait, but we didn't." And Hiruzen, he said, "I've heard enough. Take them away." And then two Ambu came from the ceiling and landed behind them and restrained them quickly. And the villagers started pleading with Hiruzen, but he wasn't hearing it. Hiruzen then said to himself, "The Kyuubi's chakra really is something else. To be able to heal that quickly, I'm impressed. But let's hope it doesn't get out of hand." So we fast forward a year later with Naruto entering the academy, and Naruto got to class on time, and he was excited as ever. He ran to the back of the class to get a seat close to, the only people he talked to really, Shikamaru and Choji. So Naruto, he sat down, and Iruka comes in not long after, and he starts the introductions, first introducing himself, then he has everyone stand up and say their name, and that's really it. And once everyone went, Iruka said, "For your first day here, I want to change it up a bit. Everyone line up at the door. We are going to meet with the Hokage." And everyone, they were caught off guard but excited. They quickly ran to the door, leaving all their stuff on their desk, and they all line up. And Naruto was standing behind Sasuke, but then Sakura and Ino came up and said, "Get out of our way, you idiot," and pushed Naruto to the ground. And no one even acknowledged what Sakura just did. They didn't care. And Naruto just got up and brushed himself off and went to the back of the line, where Shikamaru, who who was behind him as well, he asked Naruto if he was alright, and Naruto just nodded his head because it's whatever. So Iruka starts leading everyone outside to the back of the Hokage mansion, where there is a large open space where he usually trains some of his Anbu, but he's using this area to show some of the younger generation what being a real ninja looks like, basically giving them motivation to work harder. So Hiruzen and Asuma start demonstrating taijutsu moves, nothing too hard, but the academy students were in awe. So Iruka wanted everyone to use what they've learned to spar with another student. And Hiruzen and Iruka, they picked out pairs, and as they were fighting, they would give them tips, different stuff to work on. So of course Naruto and Sasuke were paired together, and when they walked up, they were just having a stare off against each other. And when Iruka said begin, Naruto was the first one to run in, and he was faster than Sasuke expected. Naruto brought his hand back to make a massive hit, but Sasuke ducked under the punch and Naruto fell first into like the dirt, and all the students started laughing, and Sakura said, "That's what you get, Naruto." So Sasuke turned around and he was laughing too. Remember, this isn't emo Sasuke yet. So Naruto got up and he was thinking what he could do that Sasuke wouldn't expect. But he had little time to think because Sasuke was already throwing a punch at him, and Naruto, his first instinct was just to jump up. So Naruto, he jumped into the air, leaving Sasuke wide open for an attack. And as he was falling, Naruto extended his foot out, but he came up short. And Naruto was trying to extend his foot out to reach Sasuke, and then his foot started to become covered in blue and yellow flames, and then the foot of a phoenix came out and slammed Sasuke into the ground, and it pushed him down so hard that he passed out because of just the incredible force behind this kick. So everyone around Naruto was starting to back up in fear, and Naruto was scared too. He didn't know what this thing was. And Iruka walked up to Naruto and said, "Calm down, Naruto. You being emotional isn't going to help. Just breathe." So Naruto started breathing, and his heartbeat started becoming slower, and he was under more control. And he and everyone else watched as the giant bird's leg disappeared into fire, and since it was on Sasuke, some of the flames started to heal him. And Hiruzen, he had some medical ninjas still come out to take Sasuke to make sure he was okay and, just everything was alright. So after that, the class ended. Iruka, he didn't bother continuing anything. And Hiruzen and Iruka would have this one thing in their mind almost all the time, like how or even what that was. So we switched perspectives to a Root Anbu watching all of this, and he disappeared into the wind and reappeared into the facility where other Root Anbu members are training, and he goes to Danzo's office, and he begins to tell him about Naruto's quote-unquote special ability. And Danzo smiled and said, "So the kid is getting stronger, good. It'll be more beneficial for my future plans. Continue keeping your eye on him." And the Anbu nodded and walked out to go back to spy on Naruto. So for the next 5 years, Naruto would try using the ability again with minimal success for the first few months. Then Naruto realized he needed to have a clear intention in mind. Think of Eren from Attack on Titan, how he has to have a reason in mind to transform. So for the first year, Naruto, he'd figure out how to properly transform his legs, and for the next 2 years, he'd realize the full capabilities of his flames. His flames, it doesn't work like traditional fire. It doesn't spread and burn everything around it. It's used to heal, so whenever Naruto has an injury, it heals it, and the Kyuubi's chakra increases that like tenfold. But whenever Naruto is using his flames of resurrection or regeneration, there's a bunch of names for it. But yeah, these blue flames, whenever he's using it on someone else, it isn't as effective, but still on par with some medical jutsu in Naruto. So we pick back up with Naruto at graduation day, and he jumps out of bed, has his bowl of ramen, then heads out straight for school. And Naruto, when he gets to class, he makes it to his seat, and then Iruka comes into class with a stack of papers, but someone different is with Iruka. It is Mizuki walking in behind him. But no one really paid him any mind. It's just another teacher there to help Iruka out for the exams, because it's gonna be a lot of paperwork. So Mizuki, he starts going around the class handing out papers, and when he reaches Naruto, he gives one to Choji, who sits next to Naruto, and then he just walks off. And Naruto, he calls out to Mizuki saying he forgot his paper, and Mizuki just rolled his eyes and turned around reluctantly, and with a fake smile, he said, "Here you go." You know, in that kind of voice, but you know there's malicious intent behind it. So Mizuki, he's like, "Here you go, Naruto," and he gives him the exam paper and walks off. So once everyone got their paper, Iruka said start, and they had 30 minutes to complete 25 questions, most of which were multiple choice, and there were one or two short answer questions, nothing too difficult. And unlike canon Naruto in this, he isn't dumb, but he isn't as smart as someone like Sakura or Sasuke. But Naruto, he just gets a few extra brain cells, you know, the common sense brain cells. So finally time is up and everyone passes their papers to the front of the class. Then Iruka says, "Well done everyone. Now we usually would do the clone jutsu, but to test a ninja's true capabilities we would need to do far more than that. So meet me outside." As the students are leaving, Iruka leaves marking the papers to Mizuki, and he walks up behind them. So Mizuki wastes no time to search for Naruto's paper, and when he does, he crumbles it and throws it into the corner of the room, not even thinking about it. He doesn't want Naruto to pass and become a ninja at all. So we switch back to Naruto with the other students, and they do kunai and shuriken accuracy training, which Naruto does okay in. The real person that shined in that test was Sasuke, and he nailed all the targets, and his fan club started cheering for Naruto. So once everyone is finished and the group is ready to spar, Iruka, he plans to stick with the original pairing. So first up was Sasuke and Naruto. The rematch Sasuke has been training for these past years, and he got into a fighting stance when Iruka told them to begin. Sasuke quickly jumped back to create space, then did a bunch of hand signs and said, "Fire style, fireball jutsu," and shot a massive fireball at Naruto, who stood there and just watched the fire come towards him, and it hit right into Naruto, right into his chest. And Iruka started freaking out and was going to stop the match right then and there, but when the smoke cleared, Naruto was standing there perfectly fine. But his clothes was burnt off, and Naruto took off his shirt, or well, at least what was left of his burnt up shirt, and the girls had a good look at Naruto's chiseled body. A side effect of training his Phoenix abilities is that Naruto developed a lot of muscle. So Naruto then said, "It's my turn." And he started sprinting, then jumped into the air, and Sasuke started weaving handstands again, but Naruto's legs turned into a phoenix and he kicked Sasuke down into the ground and he held him there. And he started squirming, trying to get out of Naruto's lock, but it didn't work, and Naruto kept him down. And from not the stands, but from where everyone else was watching, Sakura started shouting, demanding Naruto to let go of Sasuke. But Naruto, he just started yawning, mocking Sasuke even more. And at this point, Iruka, he had to stop the fight, giving the win to Naruto Uzumaki. So Sasuke walks off with a crushed ego, but with a bigger hatred for Naruto. So the rest of the spars continue until the last person goes, and then Iruka has everyone return to the classroom. When Iruka goes to class, he sees Mizuki with all the papers marked, so he just, he tells him thanks for all the help, and Mizuki leaves. and everyone goes to their seat, but in the corner of the room, Iruka, he was going to sit down, but he sees a piece of paper, and Iruka doesn't remember leaving it there, so he was just gonna throw it away properly, but he sees some questions on it, like the exam questions. So he unfolds it and he sees Naruto's paper hasn't been marked, and he was confused how it ended up in the corner. Mizuki, I mean, he obviously didn't do it. So maybe Naruto, but he never saw him do it. Just nothing was adding up in Iruka's mind, so he just left it at that and quickly marked Naruto's paper. Now, everyone in the class was extremely tired from the sparring match and just the test itself, so they were all ready to go home, and Iruka, he didn't waste any more of their time, and he started to list out the ranks of where everyone placed. And I'm not gonna go over everyone in the class, we'll be here for a while, but the main ones I'm gonna go over are the top 3. And the third overall was Ino. She almost aced the written test, and her spar was a tie. Next up was Sasuke and Sakura, who tied for second. Both of them aced the test but did like okay in their spars, both demonstrating the qualities of a ninja. And finally, number 1, the rookie of the year, Naruto Uzumaki. And although Naruto did get 80% on the written portion, his strength is undeniable, and Iruka strongly believes that Naruto could beat him in a fight. Not a lot of people were happy with how they were placed, especially Sasuke and Sakura. So when everyone was leaving to go home, Sakura blocked the door for Naruto and said, "You don't deserve Rookie of the Year, Sasuke-kun does." And Naruto just stared at her and said, "Step aside, number 2," and pushed her out of the way. So Iruka, he instructed them to return tomorrow to be placed on their teams, but in the meantime, it seems like you'll have to wait as well, because that is where I'm going to be leaving this one. If you guys are enjoying the series so far, make sure to check out Fandom, links to them in the description. They make some fire anime merch. I'm telling you, the quality is A1. And at checkout, make sure to use code IzuKage for 5% off. And it's becoming Christmas time, you know, get something for your brother, your sister, your dad, your mom. Get something for yourself, treat yourself. So yeah, make sure you guys check out Fandom, link in the description. So we left off with Naruto pushing Sakura aside and then walking out. So we're gonna pick up right where we left off, and when Naruto pushed Sakura, she actually fell and hit her elbow, and Sakura, she's being all dramatic like, "Oh my god, you just hurt me." So when Sakura, she goes home, she immediately tells her mom about what Naruto did to her, and Sakura's mom was absolutely livid. She was like, don't worry honey, I'll make sure that that demon gets what he deserves." So Sakura's mom isn't on the council, but she knows a lot of people, and especially the people who own major businesses who are on the council. And the best way I could describe Sakura's mom is a Karen, because if you made the smallest mistake, she'll blow up in your face. So Sakura's mom goes to one of her friends who owns a bunch of stores in the shopping district in the village. And for this what if, I'm gonna call him Kazuko. I use that name a lot for fodder characters in my what if, so yeah, Kazuko. Now when Sakura's mom told Kazuko about what Naruto did, he didn't even take a second to think. He was ready to call up the entire council, but he had to wait a day because by that time it was already nightfall. So when the next day came around, Kazuko, he and the other civilian council members, they called a meeting for everyone on the council, the heads of the different clans, the elders, Danzo, and the Hokage himself. So we switch perspectives to Hiruzen in his office, you know, doing regular Hokage stuff, paperwork, as always. And then while he's doing that, an Anbu appeared in front of Hiruzen's desk, and Hiruzen, he's already thinking like, what is it now? So the Anbu, he goes on to explain to Hiruzen that he's being called for a council meeting, and Hiruzen is confused because normally he's the one calling for council meetings. And then, well, that's all the Anbu says, so After about 5 minutes, Hiruzen, he starts heading towards the meeting room, and when he gets there, he sees everyone there, the clan heads, the elders, just everyone is there. And he turns to Shikaku, Shikamaru's dad, not the One Tails. He turns to Shikaku and says, well, why was the meeting called? And Shikaku, he shrugs his shoulders and points to the civilian council and said they called for the meeting. And Hiruzen, hearing this, he's already getting annoyed because the civilian council has a long history of calling council meetings for the littlest matter that does not require the Hokage. So he asks them what is it, and Kazuko, he stands up and says, Lord Hokage, that demon, I mean Naruto, is up to his old antics again. This time he injured a child in the academy. He pushed her. And Hiruzen, after hearing this, is like, is that it? And Kazuko, he's like, well, yes, he injured the child, Lord Hokage. This is definitely something wrong. And Hiruzen, he says, I'm actually over it. I'm disbanding the civilian council. And they're confused. Why? Because this is not the first time. They have done this a lot in the past. And Hiruzen, he is just fed up with the civilian council at this point. And Hiruzen said, you civilians need to know your place in this village. It is a ninja village, and the most powerful one at that. You're protected 24/7 by the strongest ninjas in the world and by the nine-tailed beast. And Hiruzen got up out of his seat and said one final thing as he was walking out. And if all of that was gone, you'd be dead in an instant. And he leaves the room. The entire room is silent, and Shikaku, he gets up to try and catch up with Hiruzen as he's walking back to his office. So when he catches up finally, he asks Hiruzen, didn't you go a bit harsh on them? And Hiruzen says, those civilians are never grateful. So we switch perspectives to Naruto, and as this whole meeting is going on, he is back at the academy and all the teams are being assigned. So Iruka, he starts going through the list of all the different teams, and he starts off with Team 10, which is Choji, Ino, Shikamaru, and Asuma as their Jonin sensei. Team 8 is Kiba, Hinata, and Shino, and Kurenai as their Jonin sensei. And last but not least, Team 7, which is going to stay the same, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, and Kakashi as their Jonin sensei. So after hearing these teams, Sakura, she couldn't be more excited to have Sasuke on her team, but felt the complete opposite for Naruto. This is literally the worst team members you could put together. All of them hate someone on the team. So as Team 7 is waiting in class, all the other Jonin senseis come and pick up their teams. Asuma and Kurenai, they arrive at the same time. So Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura are just in class waiting, and Sasuke, he's just mad that Naruto is even on his team. He is at the front of the class, just trying to not make eye contact with either of his teammates, while Sakura is trying to talk to Sasuke, while he's just being very annoyed by her. Sasuke, he just can't bother at this point. So after 2 hours of waiting, finally Kakashi comes into class and he makes up his usual excuse, saying, sorry guys, I was lost on the path of life. Of course, they weren't believing it for a second, but after saying that, Kakashi instructed all of them to meet him up on the roof of the building where they'll do a little introduction. So they all get up and start walking upstairs, and when they get to the roof, they sit down, and then Kakashi starts saying, well, just tell me your name, your likes, dislikes, and your goals for the future. So Sakura's does not change. Well, she says her name is Sakura Haruno. She likes a certain someone and dislikes someone else while looking at Naruto and Sasuke. So it's kind of obvious who she's talking about. And then her goal is to make the perfect wife. So Kakashi, he's thinking Sakura's head is in the wrong place. And he doesn't know how she's gonna fare as a ninja, but we move. And next up is Sasuke. And the main difference with his is after he says, well, it's not a goal because it's gonna be a reality. I want to kill a certain someone. And then after that, he says, I want to defeat a certain someone else, while glancing at Naruto. And Naruto just gives off a slight chuckle, which pisses Sasuke off, obviously. And when it was Naruto's turn to go, same with him. Nothing really changed from Naruto's speech. He still wanted to be Hokage. He liked training as well as ramen. So after everyone is finished up with their introductions, Kakashi, he says, well, it was good meeting you guys. Now, for the true test to begin, meet me at the training ground tomorrow morning, bright and early. And Sakura, she was confused what Kakashi meant by that and was going to ask him, but then he just poofed into a cloud of smoke. And Naruto, he was thinking, so this was a shadow clone the entire time? So after Kakashi poofed away, Sakura, she was pissed, but she couldn't do anything about it. So she tried talking to Sasuke, but he walked off, obviously, not wanting to be annoyed by her even more. While Naruto, he just jumps off and starts heading towards his house. So we skip to the next morning, and Naruto, he gets up bright and early, ready to do whatever this test Kakashi wanted them to do. He's still confused about that. So when he goes to the training ground, Naruto sees Sakura and Sasuke already there, ready for whatever test Kakashi has in store for them. So he stands under a tree because it's really hot out and just waits. And the team waits, and it's been hours. And by now, they're sort of getting used to Kakashi being late all the time. So after about 3 hours past when Kakashi was supposed to arrive, he finally does. And as he was about to, give his usual excuse, they're all like, just save it, Kakashi. So he rubs the back of his head and says, yeah, well, now what we're gonna do for the test, it's called the bell test. And he pulls out 2 bells and shows them and says, 2 of you have to take these bells from me, and the one person who doesn't will be sent back to the academy. And Sakura, hearing this, she was freaking out. She said, I worked really hard for this. How can you just send us back to the academy? And Kakashi, he had no care in the world. He didn't even answer her question. So Kakashi, he says, just get ready. So everyone, they go out to the field, and Kakashi, he does a countdown, then says, begin. And with that, both Sasuke and Sakura jump into the forest, leaving Naruto out alone to fight Kakashi. So he would make the first move and rush in, and both of them would start engaging in a taijutsu battle. And Kakashi was surprised by Naruto's strength and says, he'll be taking this fight seriously, and he lifts his headband, revealing the Sharingan, and Kakashi kicks Naruto back, and at the same time, he weaves hand signs and says water style, floodgate. And the river behind Kakashi rose up, and a bunch of water started barreling towards Naruto, and the width of the attack took up the entire field, and the waves were at least 10 feet above Naruto's head. So as they came crashing down onto Naruto, Kakashi looked on thinking, if that was too much for the kid, but he needs to find others. But as Kakashi was about to go searching for the rest of Team 7, he saw some blue flames flickering, and he looked back to where the attack hit Naruto, and he sees Naruto just floating in midair with some massive wings. And Kakashi was amazed. He didn't know what to say. And Naruto flew towards him, and the flames started covering his body completely. And Kakashi shot a fireball at Naruto, but when it hit his wings, like his phoenix wings, it went right through it. And then Naruto flew above Kakashi's head, and he spun around and kicked him in the back of the head, sending Kakashi barreling into the ground, and this knocked him out completely. So after seeing this display of strength, Sasuke, he couldn't envy Naruto enough. Like, what is this power that he has? And now he can fly? It seems like every time he sees Naruto fight, he's getting stronger and stronger, and Sasuke just can't keep up. So when Kakashi finally comes to, he is tied up to the stump, and he sees Naruto jingling the 2 bells in front of him, and he's eating some Ichiraku ramen. He was going to offer the other 2 some, but they didn't even want to talk to Naruto about it, so Naruto, he's eating good while they're starving. So Kakashi, he's thinking in his head like, how did Naruto get this strong? Like, what even is that power? Is it some kind of Keke Genkai? And he's thinking all of these things like Uzumaki don't have Keke Genkai. His mind is just baffled by what he just witnessed. So Kakashi, he starts to tell them the real meaning behind the exercise and how it was a team-based exercise, but because they did get him in the end, they pass. So with that, Team 7 is now official, and they start doing some low D-rank missions, nothing crazy like helping old ladies cross the road, and picking up garbage from the river, different things like that, just basically community service if you think about it. But after 2 weeks straight of all of this, Team 7 was annoyed of all of these simple baby missions when they were training to be hardcore ninjas. So the next time Team 7 went to get a mission from Hiruzen, they brought up the fact that they wanted harder missions, and Hiruzen, he knows about Naruto's strength. Like after Kakashi's fight with Naruto, he went to talk to Hiruzen about it. So he knows exactly what Naruto is capable of. And he says, I'll think about it. And he starts flicking through the different folders that he has. And he comes across a C-rank escort mission. And he's like, this might be it. So he tells them that, well, it looks like he does have a mission just right for them. A C-rank escort mission where they will be escorting the bridge builder Tazuna back to his homeland, the Land of Waves. So after hearing this, Team 7, they were starting to get excited, and then Hiruzen asks Tazuna to come in so he can meet the people who are supposed to protect him. And when he comes in, Tazuna, how can I say this lightly? Tazuna is a completely drunken mess. He's slurring over his words like, "Do you really expect these kids to protect me? I paid good money for this mission." So Hiruzen, he's had enough and has the Ambu take him out. And Hiruzen, he's like, yeah, he's a bit of a handful, but I'm sure you guys can get it. So the next morning, Team 7, they're all packed up and ready to go. And they meet Tazuna at the village gates, and he starts apologizing completely. That night, he was completely wasted. So he just wanted to apologize for how he acted. And with that out of the way, the team starts heading off on their first journey outside of the Leaf Village. So now, as they're about 20 minutes from the Leaf Village, they're walking down the regular path, and up ahead was a puddle which no one on the team really paid attention to, except for Kakashi, but he didn't say anything about it because it's just a puddle. I mean, what's so bad about a puddle? So as they walk past it, someone jumps out of the puddle. It was actually a genjutsu, and it was one of the demon brothers with a massive metal claw for a hand. So the two brothers jump out of the puddle and immediately goes for Kakashi and wrap their chains around him and both pull, ripping Kakashi to shreds. And Naruto, he sees this and he was confused. Kakashi is way too strong to be killed by these ninjas, and he knew something was up. But the demon brothers turned their attention to Tazuna. But while Naruto, he was thinking of a way to attack these two, Sasuke, he was the first to act because he was not trying to have Naruto take up all the fame this time. So Sasuke, he acts quickly and jumps into the air and throws his kunai at the chain connecting both of the demon brothers' claw, and he traps it onto a tree and throws a kunai holding it in place, and then lands on both of the claws. But the demon brothers, they just broke through the kunai hold from the tree, and one ran towards Naruto and the other towards Tazuna. And Naruto, he runs at the demon brother also, and he takes a hit from the claw. But Naruto, that just heals. It's not going to be a problem even if it's poison laced. And then Naruto swings under the claw and punches the demon brother up into the air. And the other one that ran towards Tazuna, Kakashi, who was actually not dead, surprisingly, he jumps out of the forest and completely blocks the demon brother from even touching Tazuna, coming near to him. So after both of the demon brothers being defeated, Kakashi tied them up both to a tree and tried to get some information out of them, interrogate them. So as Kakashi was trying to extract information, they said, at least we got the kid, he'll die any minute now, or claws are poison laced. And Naruto, he just said, oh, this hand, and he shows them the hand, and it's completely fine. And they're like, what? But I hit you. And Naruto said, I didn't feel a thing. And he was so confused, like, but I'm sure I hit him. So after that, Kakashi, he continues trying to get information out of them, and he gets out that they were actually sent to kill Tazuna, that this mission may be above what it was actually listed as a C rank, because if ninjas like these two are coming after Tazuna, then this is a serious problem and they might need to go back to the Leaf. But after Kakashi said they would need to go back to the Leaf, everyone there, they were like, no, we need to continue, we should continue. Sasuke said it's like the only thing you could get this team to agree on is that they want to continue this mission. Because no matter how hard it is, it's a challenge for all of them. So after Kakashi, he was like, okay, we'll continue the mission. And after he obviously kills both the brothers because he can't leave them alive, and then they continue on their journey to the land of waves. So back onto the path, when they're getting closer to the land of waves, a thick mist starts rolling in, and then Kakashi tells the group to stop because he hears something coming, and then he yells out duck, and the entire group drops to the ground, and a massive broadsword swings over them and lodges itself into the tree. And that's when one of the great legendary swordsmen, Zabuza, lands on the sword and says, "So, Kakashi, I didn't think I'd be meeting you here." And Sakura, she was scared. She turned to Kakashi and said, Who is that?" And Kakashi said, "He's one of the legendary swordsmen, Zabuza. He's a rogue ninja of the Mist Village, and we need to take him down." So we last left off with Team 7 facing off against their opponent, Zabuza. And Zabuza looked down onto the team and said, "Kakashi the copy ninja, I must say I didn't expect to see you all the way out here, but you're in my way, and I'll be taking the bridge builder." But Kakashi, he stepped in front of Tazuna and said, "I don't think so." And he revealed his Sharingan, and Sasuke, seeing this, he was in awe but confused how a non-member of the Uchiha clan even had the Sharingan in the first place. But Kakashi said to his team to protect the bridge builder, and he said he'll take care of this. And Kakashi, he runs into battle and throws kunais at Zabuza, and he pulls his sword out of the tree and blocks all of them and lands in front of Kakashi. And he had a cocky smirk on his face, and he swiped at Kakashi with his blade, but he easily dodged it because with his Sharingan activated, Kakashi, he could just see it slowly moving, so it was a lot easier for him to dodge. Then Zabuza ran in and they began this massive taijutsu battle, and Naruto and the others are simply just watching, and Naruto, he's just watching for now since those were Kakashi's orders, but as soon as something starts to go south, he'll jump in. So back with Kakashi, he just kicked Zabuza away, but he landed on his feet and he looked up and said, "You underestimate me, Kakashi." And then Zabuza performed a bunch of hand signs that said, "Ninja art, hidden mist jutsu." And the mist around their battle became thicker and even harder to see through. But Kakashi, he made hand signs and created a pulse of energy using his chakra, pushing some of the mist away, so it would just be easier for him to see. But when Kakashi looked, Zabuza, he was gone, and he began looking around and he turned back to his team and saw Zabuza appear right in front of Tazuna. And Naruto, seeing this, he was the first person to act, and he swiped at Zabuza's legs, dropping him to the ground. And then Kakashi, he came up ready to kill and stab Zabuza with a kunai. But from the wound, water was coming out, and Kakashi and Naruto both said in their head, "Water clone." From behind Kakashi, Zabuza appeared and he used his sword and cut Kakashi clean in half. the entire team's eyes widened in shock. But then Kakashi, he dropped and turned into water. So it was a water clone this entire time, but when did he even create it? But Naruto, using this confusion, he ran up and kicked Zabuza in the stomach with his phoenix leg, sending him flying back into the forest, and the mist started to finally fade away. And Naruto, he ran over to Zabuza's body, who he thinks was knocked out from the attack, but as he was walking back over to his team with Zabuza's body like slumped over his shoulder, Kakashi, he came out and he looked at Zabuza and he shouted to Naruto to drop him right now, but he was too slow, and Zabuza, he had Naruto in a chokehold and held a kunai to his neck. And Zabuza said, "This kid's pretty strong, but it's time to give your genin a reality check, what being a ninja really is." And Zabuza reeled his kunai back to get some momentum, but before he could stab Naruto, Naruto's entire head burst into blue flames, causing Zabuza to let go in a panic because he thought he was gonna get burnt. But soon he realized it didn't even hurt at all. Actually, it felt more good than bad. But these flames started to completely cover Naruto's body, and Haku, watching this fight, doesn't know what this jutsu or maybe Kekkei Genkai is, but he's not going to let it get out of hand. Haku quickly took out some senbon and threw it at Zabuza, but it was already too late. Naruto grabbed Zabuza with his phoenix claw, so even though the senbon didn't hit Zabuza, like Kakashi's Sharingan, like he was able to see them go past. So he knew exactly where Haku was. So he walked over to Sasuke and whispered something in his ear, and Sasuke, he smirked. And he and Kakashi walked out into the open, and then they both did a bunch of hand signs and said, "Fire style, great fireball jutsu," and shot it towards the exact position the senbon came from, and the fireball combined and made a pretty big explosion on impact due to just the tremendous force of the attack. So they ran over to see if they hit anyone, and that's when they saw Haku, and half of her mask was broken and some of her clothes was like charred up from the flames. So Haku, he started to limp away, and like he was trying to get away because he can't get caught, because if he does, he won't be able to help Zabuza in the future. But then steel wires started going around Haku, and then they tightened, trapping him to a tree. And Kakashi went in front of Haku and said, "So, you're Zabuza's pupil. You two will be coming back to the village with us." So Kakashi, he returned to his team with Haku tied up, and Kakashi, he looked at Haku and Zabuza and thought it would be pretty difficult to keep these two with them for the entire time in the Land of Waves. But Naruto, who was thinking along the same lines, grabbed Haku from Kakashi with his phoenix feet. And I should mention that Naruto's phoenix legs, they are massive. That's why he's able to just hold people down. So he grabs both Zabuza and Haku in his feet, and then he turned his arms into wings. And Kakashi said, "Where are you going?" And Naruto replied, "Go on without me. I'll bring these two back to the village and fly back." And they just watched Naruto fly at pretty fast speeds back to the village, and they were pretty amazed, like, wow, that's actually pretty useful. Everyone except Sasuke, of course, he was just folding his arms and said, it's not that useful. So the team, they continued to the Land of Waves, and as they were walking down the path, Sasuke, he sees Zabuza's blade and quickly went to grab it. And like he thought it would come in handy. Maybe this could give him one up with Naruto and he can finally become stronger. But as soon as he lifts up the sword, Sasuke knew this wasn't the best sword for him. It was too massive. But he still brought it along with him. It could prove useful later down the line. So the team, they arrive on the docks, and since Tazuna, he knew one of the fishermen there, he decided to give them a ride over to the Land of Waves. So meanwhile, they're all heading to the Land of Waves. Naruto, he arrives in the village in about 5 minutes, and he went straight to Ibiki, who had a building next to the Hokage's mansion where they would keep like prisoners or people they were going to interrogate. And Naruto just flew in and said, "Take care of these two," and took off. And Ibiki, he was pretty confused, but he's seen weirder stuff, so he's like, okay. He locks them up and puts some binding seals on them so they won't do anything like to try and break out. So Naruto, he begins flying back and he arrives at the Land of Waves as soon as his team reaches the docks. And Tazuna says, that was quick. You must all be pretty hungry. My daughter loves cooking, so she'll have something amazing ready for us. So they walk down the docks to Tazuna's house, and as soon as he opens the door, a wonderful smell fills their noses. It's just think of your favorite food, that's what they're smelling, and their mouth starts watering. It smells amazing. So they all gather around the dining table, and Tazuna's daughter starts sharing out them food and talking about how they saved her grandfather and saved her father, and how she's so grateful to all of them. But they were all preoccupied eating because it was really good. So while they were eating, out of the corner of his eye, Naruto saw this kid, so he turned around to get a better look, but Inari just runs off, and Naruto, he just shrugs and goes back to eating, cause again, this food is amazing. So after they finished up, Tazuna, he shows the guests to some guest rooms that they have where they can stay for the time being. So during their entire stay, Team 7, they did basic chakra control training with Kakashi, and it would all go pretty similar to canon, with Sakura being by far the best at chakra control out of the three of them. But Sasuke and Naruto, they would be really competitive, going until nighttime, trying to reach to the top of the tree. And even when they had to go back to Tazuna's house, Naruto and Sasuke, they was just shovel down the food down their throats so they can get immediately back out and start their training once again, because neither of them wants the other to win. And soon enough, Naruto actually gets the win, beating Sasuke to the top of the tree. And he wasn't too happy about that, but he'll have different opportunities to show his dominance over Naruto. That's what he wants to believe, though. So on the day the bridge was scheduled to be fully completed, as Naruto and the rest of Team 7 are patrolling the bridge, making sure there's nothing out of the ordinary, they see this ship rolling up with mercenaries filling it. The entire deck of the ship is just filled with people. And as soon as it reaches the bridge, they all climb up, and Naruto and the rest of Team 7 are looking at this, and they look at each other knowing what they have to do. So Kakashi, he was the first to go up because he was just gonna finish this quickly and easily, just take care of all of them. But Sasuke wasn't going to be left behind this time, and both Kakashi and Sasuke defeated these mercenaries with literally almost zero effort, because they were all basically fodder, and Gato, he was just killed in the attack. So after this, the bridge was finally completed, and Tazuna decided to name it the Great Naruto Bridge, just like in canon. And the entire village sees Team 7 off, thanking them for saving them from Gato and all of his men terrorizing them on a daily basis. So Team 7, after a mission success, they head on their way to the Leaf Village. And as soon as they arrive, they head to Hiruzen to give him the mission details, and Kakashi told him about how it was definitely not a C-rank mission because Zabuza Momochi was hunting down Tazuna. So it was like a B, maybe even A rank mission. And Sasuke, he even gave Hiruzen Zabuza's sword as a keepsake of sorts. So after that, Team 7, they head out to the village to get some rest from their mission. But it wasn't long after, because the next day Kakashi called them to the training grounds for some important information. And when they arrive, of course, Kakashi, never on time. So they're just there waiting for about an hour, and finally Kakashi arrives. and he starts to explain to them that they will be having the tuning exams in 2 weeks. So that's the amount of time they have to train and prepare for these exams. And Kakashi, he asked them if they were interested at all, and all of them raised their hands instantly. They want to progress as ninjas, so it's not even a question to them. So Kakashi, he leaves his team there after giving them that announcement, and they were all like not even paying attention to each other. Well, Sakura was obviously like always trying to get Sasuke's attention, but Naruto and Sasuke, they just went their separate ways for the training for these 2 weeks. And Naruto's main goal is to try and make his flames more useful, try and increase the heat, because he would like to use it as something offensive other than just being able to heal. So Naruto, he would spend these 2 weeks trying to increase the heat, trying any way, maybe going to hot springs more to heat up his own body, trying anything. But nothing worked, and for the most part, all Naruto did was basic physical training. He would jog in the mornings, do some bodyweight training, simple stuff like that. While Sasuke, on the other hand, he had something to prove. He had the entire Uchiha library to learn, and he was learning fire style jutsus, just everything that was there. So soon enough, the Chunin exams come around, and Team 7 meet up before going to the academy. And while they were walking, let me switch perspectives to Konohamaru, and he's playing with his friends, and Konohamaru, he bumps into the Sand Ninja, and Kankuro, he picks up Konohamaru by the collar and said, "That hurt, brat." And Konohamaru, he's screaming, "Let me go, let me go!" And his friends are saying it as well. And Naruto and his teammates, they're walking up and seeing this, and Naruto says to Kankuro, "Let him go." And Kankuro says, "Or what?" And at that moment, Naruto, he makes turn his hands into wings and flies towards Kankuro, taking Konohamaru out of his arms, and he lands on the tree above him. And Kankuro, he was surprised and said, "What the hell was that?" And Kankuro, he took out his puppet and said, "Alright, that's it." But before the fight could escalate, from above Naruto, Gaara was there, and he said, "Kankuro, stop it." And chills went down Kankuro's spine, and he said, I'm sorry, Gaara." And Kankuro and Temari, they were like, we didn't even want to fight either ways, so they started walking off. So Naruto, he brought Konohamaru back to his friends and told him to be more careful next time, and his team walks to the Chunin exams. So as soon as they arrive, the door is immediately blocked by a horde of Chunins, of Genins trying to get into the academy. But Naruto's team, they manage to squeeze through, and when they do, they see that the door that they were all being guided to was a genjutsu, and they all decided to go upstairs to where the actual door is. So they walk up, and this time Lee didn't challenge Sasuke to a fight because Neji actually talked him out of it, saying it was a bad idea to expose any of your abilities this early into the exams. So Team 7, they enter into the first stage, and as soon as they walk in, a bunch of genins from different villages are eyeing them down. And Naruto, he remained calm, but Sakura, she was freaking out, and she was scared, trying to hide behind Sasuke. So they all took up a corner in the room, trying to stay as silent as possible. And while they were doing that, some students were talking to this genin with silver gray hair, and he was over there spinning cards, but Team 7, they didn't want to interact with anyone, so they remained to themselves until Ibiki appeared. And Ibiki, he told everyone to sit properly because they're gonna start. So he starts to explain the rules of the first stage, and he says, "Alright, settle down. We're gonna be doing the test. And this test, you'll have 10 questions, but the last question will be saved until after you finish the papers I'm about to hand out. Now, the most important rule is not to cheat. If you get caught cheating, your entire team will be disqualified. Am I clear?" And everyone said, "Yes, sir." So he starts passing out the papers, And Naruto, he skims through the paper when he gets it, and they aren't too hard, but any regular genin would not be able to answer them. And that's why Ibiki, he set up fake students, people with the answers fully answered, and the aim really is for students to cheat their way into getting these answers. That's what it's really testing. It's not testing intellect. But Naruto, he managed to answer 5 questions on his own, but by that time the time limit had run up, and Ibiki, he said, "Now time for the final question." And by this time, about 3 teams were kicked out, and Ibiki, he starts to explain the last question, and he says that if they get this wrong, they will be barred from taking the Chunin exams ever again. So most students, they just took the most logical way out to spend another year to just prepare and get ready, because if they get this wrong, they may never have this opportunity ever again. And 5 teams thought that this was the best idea. They walked out. That's what, 15 genins? So they walked out, and after Ibiki was like, "Okay, that's everyone. Now time for the final question." And everyone, they started sweating, worrying about if it's gonna be too hard. And then Ibiki said, "You pass." And they were all confused, like, "What do you mean I pass? We haven't even gotten the question yet." But he just said how it was all a logical deception, and there was actually no real 10th question. And they were mad but happy because they got to pass. And with that, Anko, she jumps through the window, sending glass shards flying everywhere. And she said, "Alright maggots, everyone meet me over at the Forest of Death or else." So with that order, everyone went over to the Forest of Death, leaving Ibiki and Anko in the room. And Anko said, "Ibiki, what happened? Did you get soft or something? So many of them passed." And Ibiki just said, "I'm surprised as you are. Also, can you go through the door next time? It's there for a reason." And she just said, "Nah," and jumps back through another window and heads to the Forest of Death. And Ibiki just sighs and just starts collecting all the papers and sweeping up the glass. So Naruto and his team are heading to the Forest of Death, but Kakashi, he arrives and intercepts his team, pulling Naruto aside and lets the other 2 go along. And Sasuke and Sakura, they're a bit suspicious, like why would Kakashi want to talk to only Naruto? But they just go along because, you know, they need to get the info from Anko on how the second stage is going to go. So Kakashi, he pulls Naruto aside and tells him that Hiruzen has approved him becoming a Jonin. And Naruto, at first he was confused why Hiruzen would do that, but Kakashi said when they got back from the Land of Waves, he told Hiruzen about everything that Naruto did, and considering he literally took down a S-rank ninja, he was considering making him a Jonin. And now the offer is on the table, and Naruto, he isn't dumb. Like, of course he accepts, but he says he wants to complete the Chunin exams first, and Kakashi, he's like, yeah, sure, you know, he wants to stick it through with his team, so why not? So Naruto, he catches back up with his team, and as Anko is explaining the second stage of the Chunin exams, Danzo, who's been keeping a keen eye on Naruto since like part 1, he's decided to make his move. He created a clone and had that clone leave the village to meet with a member of the Akatsuki, and this is Pain. And you see, Danzo had gotten into contact with the leader of the Akatsuki, and they could benefit from each other. Danzo wanted Hiruzen out of the picture so he can become the Hokage, while Pain wanted Naruto. So they struck a deal, and Pain would deal with Hiruzen if he gets Naruto. So right now they're meeting to like explain the details, and Danzo said Hiruzen will be watching the Genins fight from his own special viewing area, so that would be the best opportunity to strike. And Pain, he's just like, all good, I'll take care of him myself. So they both nodded their heads and went their separate directions. And back with Naruto and his team, they got their scrolls and were ready to rush into the Forest of Death. And then Anko shouted, "Go!" With that, everyone rushed into the forest except Team 7. Naruto said, "Wait, I have a plan." And he covered his arms and legs in blue flames, turning into a partial phoenix. And Naruto grabbed Sakura and Sasuke and started flying off, like up above the trees and towards the center of the forest. So while they're flying, Naruto and his team, they're mainly searching for teams they can get the Heaven Scroll because they have the Earth Scroll. And as they're doing their search, they come across Gaara's team. And this is where Gaara was fighting those Hidden Rain Ninja. And I say fight very loosely because this fight was a complete massacre. They stood no chance. And Gaara, he began... Naruto began circling around them, watching from above, and meanwhile, the Hidden Rain Ninja are confident. They can take these Genin down, these Sand Genin down easily. But Gaara, he blocks all of their attacks with his sand, and he said, "Sand coffin," and all the sand on the ground began covering the leader of those Hidden Rain Ninjas, started covering his body. And Gaara lifted him up into the air, and he slowly clenched his hands into a fist and said, "Sand burial." And the sand crushed the Rain Ninja, and his blood sprayed all over the battlefield. Luckily, Gaara took up one of his umbrellas, so he wouldn't get mess all over his clothes. And his teammates seeing this, they were scared. They didn't even want to look Gaara in the eyes. But, they didn't want to die also, so they took out their Heaven Scroll and put it on the ground and said, "Hey, listen, we don't want any problems, just take it and we'll go." But Gaara wasn't finished with them. Team 7, who was witnessing all of this, they were scared also. Sakura said to Naruto, Get us out of here before he sees us." But Naruto saw Gaara was about to kill the other two, so he flew down and did something similar to when Gaara was about to deal the last blow on Lee in the preliminaries. How Guy steps in and dispels all the sand. If I remember, you should see a clip of it on screen. No promises, because I have 2 brain cells and I can't remember anything. So Naruto, he flies down to save the 2 ninjas in a similar fashion, and he turned to Gaara and said, "They're giving up. Take the scroll and leave." And Naruto throws the Heaven Scroll to them, and Temari caught it, and Gaara was just glaring at Naruto. And Naruto was doing the same. Both of them could sense how strong the other was, and Gaara wanted to fight Naruto right there and then, but it made more sense to do it later. So he turned around and started walking to the center of the forest, like the mansion that they were supposed to go to. And Naruto, he turned to the Hidden Rain Ninja to try and say something to them, but they were long gone. They weren't sticking around for nothing. They almost died, so they wanted to make sure they were in the clear. So Team 7 returned to the skies, and they would come across a Leaf Village team, just some fodder characters. They pieced them up real easily, and they get their Heaven Scrolls, so luck was on their side. So Team 7, they head to the mansion, and when Naruto and his team walks in, they see Gaara and his team, and they walk past each other, and the tension in the room was so strong. Sakura, Sasuke, Temari, and Kankuro, they couldn't breathe, but they went about their way and just waited for the rest of the teams to arrive. And the teams would, everyone would arrive the next morning, and Hiruzen, he would take them all into this wide open room, and he would explain to them that too many of them actually passed. They're a bit too strong, so they need to dwindle down the numbers, so they will be having a preliminary exams. Hearing this, some people actually did drop out, what's his name? He's the basically assistant to Orochimaru. Whatever, I'll say his name when it comes to me. So he drops out, and after that, they continue with the preliminary rounds. And the first matchups would be Naruto versus Kiba. Oh, Kabuto, that's the name, Kabuto, yeah. So Kabuto, he drops out. So Naruto and Kiba. Kiba was confident he would be able to win, and when the proctor started the match, he threw a food pill to Akamaru and he said, "Man Beast transformation!" And Akamaru turned into a clone of Kiba, and both of them started spinning around in a kind of drill in a technique called Fang over Fang, and they flew towards Naruto, who was actually easily dodging all of their attacks. And after a while, Kiba, he had to stop to take a breather, but Naruto was already behind him and he kicked him into a wall. But Akamaru came and he slammed into Naruto in his like Fang over Fang form. And everyone in Team 8 and Team 7, they looked away because that was a square hit. That was good. But Naruto's chest burst into flames and Akamaru flew right through him and into Kiba, slamming him back into the wall. And with that, Kiba, he was knocked out from both of those attacks. And the proctor declared the winner, Uzumaki Naruto. So after this, some people would go like Sakura versus Ino, and Sasuke versus that one, what was it, a leaf ninja? I think so. And after those are finished, they would go on their 1 month training period. And this is so they can prepare for the third stage, because these matches are pretty strenuous, so they want to build up and maybe learn a few techniques or two. So over the 1 month training period, Naruto, he would not actually meet Jiraiya. Jiraiya would come in a bit later on, but yeah. Naruto, he would just continue training his flames and how he can use them in different ways. And he realized that his flames are actually like pretty dense, so he can basically hit someone with it. And with enough force, it could do some decent damage. So that would be the main thing Naruto is focusing for this 1 month training period he has. While Sasuke, he would of course still train with Kakashi, and Sakura, poor Sakura, she would be useless. Like, I literally can't think of anything to give Sakura. So yeah, Sakura, she's just watching Sasuke train. Yeah, that. So after that, the 1 month training period is over, and Naruto, as well as everyone else who advanced to the final rounds, returned to the arena to, complete the third stage. So Naruto walked into the arena and it was filled to the brim with villagers who came out to watch their favorite Genin fight. So different people are rooting for different people. Well, no one is rooting for Naruto, let's be honest. So after this, the proctor tells everyone to return to the stage, like the arena stage, except Naruto and Neji, because they'll be going first. And hearing this, the crowd went wild. The prodigy Hyuga going up against the friggin' demon brat. Finally, they can see him get beaten to a pulp. So once they've all quieted down, Neji and Naruto went to face each other. And Neji said to Naruto, "If you value your life, you will quit right now, because I am a prodigy and destined to win. While you're a nobody, you have no clan, no family, no friends. You're a nobody." And after all of this talking, Naruto, he said nothing. He was just preparing to fight, and the proctor started the match, and immediately Naruto covered his body in blue flames, becoming a phoenix, and Neji was stunned. The entire crowd was stunned. Nobody has seen any jutsu technique, Kekkei Genkai, nothing like this. And Naruto flew towards Neji and he quickly put up his rotation barrier, and Naruto's phoenix slammed into this orb of chakra. But Naruto kept flying back, slamming into it over and over until Neji fell off balance. And Naruto seized this opportunity and he used his flames like a blunt object and slammed it into Neji while he was on the ground, and he coughed up blood. And Naruto's attack didn't stop. He was relentless until the proctor had to break the fight up, since Neji, he had already fallen unconscious. And with that, Naruto was declared the winner. So the next fights would go similar to canon with Kankuro versus Shino, and that match would go to Shino because Kankuro, he just like gave up. And then it would be Tamaru versus Shikamaru, and we all know Shikamaru, the fight was just too much of a drag for him, so he gave up as well. And the final fight was Gaara versus Sasuke. And like in canon, he does come late, but at least he's on time. So he starts his fight with Gaara, and it all goes pretty similar to canon. And when Sasuke, he's up on the arena walls doing hand signs for the Chidori, he runs down, and as Sasuke was about to slam the Chidori into Gaara's sand defense, a massive explosion came from the Hokage stand, and everyone's eyes turned to it, and there stood all 6 paths of pain. Hiruzen was blown away into the walls, but he quickly recovered and took off his Hokage robes, and he had his battle gear ready. So Pain said, "All we want is the Jinchuriki. Don't be so quick to temper. Universal pull." And Hiruzen shot towards Pain, who grabbed him by the neck and slammed Hiruzen into the ground. And when the smoke cleared, Pain looked at Hiruzen, who held up a sign and said, "Fire style, fireball jutsu." And he shot a fireball point blank into Pain's face, but it didn't do much. Pain threw Hiruzen into the Preta path, who held him so he wouldn't be able to use any of his jutsu, and the human path walked up and placed a hand on Hiruzen's head and started sifting through his mind, gathering intel, like something that things the Hokage would only know, like village secrets. Meanwhile, the Konoha crush is underway, and everyone else is preoccupied. Also, Orochimaru, when he saw Pain, he had enough sense to just get the hell out of there because he was not ready to deal with that. And Naruto was helping Kakashi deal with the San Shinobi, but Kakashi could sense something was a bit off, and he told Naruto to go make sure that the Hokage is fine, that Hiruzen is okay. And Naruto nodded and jumped up to the viewing area where the explosion came from, and all around him was just rubble, and among the rubble was Hiruzen's dead body. And Naruto rushed over to the body, and he was crying his eyes out, and he lifted up Hiruzen, trying to get him to respond. And from the darkness, Pain stepped out, and he said, "Naruto Uzumaki, come with us and your village will be spared." There was a moment of silence, and Naruto asked, "Did you do this?" And Pain replied, "He would have gotten in my way to get to you, so taking him out was a necessity." And Naruto remained silent, and the Nine Tails chakra started bubbling up, and he instantly went to the Four Tails. Burning his skin off, Naruto's flames from the Tori no Mi turned into a fiery red color, and Naruto ran up and grabbed Pain by the head, and the flames covered Pain's body, doing the opposite of healing. It was like the temperature of the surface of the sun. On contact, these flames burnt the Deva path up in an instant. But there were more, the remaining 5 paths. They started booking it out of the arena and into the forest. And when I talk running, they're straight up running for their lives. So with Naruto, he's tailing behind them, and as he's running, he's burning up the trees and grass behind him. And the paths, they make a sharp turn right, and standing there was Kisame. He smirked and said, "How about you cool off? Water style, water shockwave jutsu." And Kisame created a massive pillar of water that slammed down onto Naruto, immobilizing for a short period. And Tobi came from behind Naruto, and a spiral pattern started surrounding Naruto, and he disappeared. The Akatsuki won. Naruto was trapped in Obito's Kamui dimension, so he couldn't do anything. Obito had full reign over that dimension. And before I move on, I know Toby was one of the last members to join the Akatsuki. Well, formally join the Akatsuki, since we all know him and Zetsu were some of the first members. So I'm just disregarding when they joined. The Akatsuki is just already formed. So now back at the Leaf Village, things have died down. You know, most of all of the Sand Shinobi, they were taken care of. But they had their biggest loss, the Hokage and their Jinchuriki. Days following, Kakashi was actually appointed the next Hokage. So all of this was just like Danzo didn't get any part of this deal, because the elders saw Kakashi the most fit to become the next Hokage. You know, Danzo did try to manipulate them, but it just didn't work. So Kakashi was appointed the next Hokage. You know, they didn't have any time to find Tsunade. This was just urgent. They needed someone to lead the village. So first he got to the reconstruction efforts to rebuild the destroyed buildings, and next was what to do with the Akatsuki and their missing Jinchuriki. And during all of this, Jiraiya returned to the village, and you could imagine how confused he was, seeing the entire village almost destroyed. So he went to the Hokage's mansion, you know, expecting to see Hiruzen, but he got there and he saw Kakashi, and he gave him a rundown of the entire situation, how Hiruzen died, how Naruto has gone missing. And hearing this, like, Jiraiya, he was livid. Both Jiraiya and Kakashi went on a full-scale search using all the resources Jiraiya has, all the hideouts he's taken note of over the years, just everything to search for Naruto, and they came up with nothing. Meanwhile, this entire time, Naruto had been in Obito's Kamui dimension training, and Obito does provide Naruto with food because, you know, they need him alive, but Naruto is slowly like getting stronger after a year. But the Akatsuki have been making their own moves. Like, they've been gathering the nine-tailed beasts earlier. And with Naruto out of the picture, Gaara, he's straight up dead. Like, Deidara and Sasori, they went in there, they destroyed the entire village and took Gaara, and there's no saving him. And most of the tail beasts are just easy pickings at this point. They also launched a full-scale attack on the cloud to get the 8 tails, and the only one left to extract is Naruto at this point. So while in their cave hideout, Obito released Naruto from his Kamui dimension. But let's backtrack like a minute before this, and Naruto, he was just resting, you know, bro was chilling, and he fell asleep. But within this darkness, Naruto is approached by the Sage of Six Paths. He's been observing Naruto's situation, and he said, "My son, a fight is approaching that you will not survive, but there is only one way." And Naruto kept silent to hear what this old man had to say, and the Sage of Six Paths continued, "I will give you the entirety of my chakra. Use it to rid the world of these enemies and bring peace. Also, Kurama, help the kid out, will ya?" And Naruto, he couldn't even say a word, he just listened. And Hagoromo held both Naruto's hands, and Naruto woke up on the ground in a cave. And he looked around and saw people in black robes and red clouds on it. And his mind was he knew immediately who this was, the Akatsuki. And in front of him, Naruto saw the new Deva path. This time, it isn't using, Yahiko's body, it's someone else. And Naruto quickly covered his body in the flames of regeneration. But Naruto's flames aren't their usual color. They were normally a blue color. They weren't even fiery red. They were a deep purple, similar to the look of the Rinnegan, but a lot more, how can I even explain this? A lot more deeper purple? I don't know. But Itachi, he was the first to act and tried putting Naruto in a genjutsu to surprise him, but it didn't work, considering he has Kurama, and Kurama would break Naruto out of the Genjutsu. So Naruto quickly jumped back to create space between him and the group, and he said in his head, "You gonna help me out or not?" And Kurama just gave an affirmative grunt, like, So the seal, it wasn't unlocked, so Naruto, he entered his six-tail state. So it isn't KCM, it's just the chakra on the outside of Naruto. So with the purple fire, it surrounded Naruto and turned him into a new form, the six-tailed phoenix. And Naruto flew near light speeds to pain, slamming him into the walls of the cave. But from behind Naruto, Itachi, he shot a massive fireball at him, but it went right through him, hitting Pain instead. Because you see, the infusion of Hagoromo's chakra made the Logia qualities of his fruit way stronger. And now it's sort of similar to Obito's intangibility, but a lot stronger. And speaking of Obito, Naruto wanted to get rid of him like off rip. First, since, he kept him imprisoned for over a year, and since he had the potential to escape. So Naruto, he moved near light speeds to Obito, and he was not fast enough to react to this, like to counter Naruto. So with the flames now scorching hot and Naruto's ability to fly this fast, it's basically over for the entire Akatsuki. So while Naruto is letting out some frustration, the tremors of his attacks are felt by Jiraiya and his group of tracking ninjas who are actually nearby. And they sense the cave near them and start running over. And the seals on the boulder, like they were about to start completing the task needed to open it. Like you need to go to these different seals and fight yourself, like things like that, from Shippuden. So as they were about to complete the task needed to open it, from the inside, Naruto came through and kicked Deidara against the rock so hard he broke right through it. And as Jiraiya sees Naruto, he rushes over to Naruto and hugs him, but he immediately backs up because the flames around Naruto are that hot. He literally scorched his skin. And Naruto, seeing this, he quickly fell out of his six-tailed phoenix state and used his regular flames of regeneration to heal all of Jiraiya's injuries. And at this point, Naruto doesn't have a strong bond with Jiraiya, so this old man just hugging him out of nowhere, it's a bit strange, out of left field. But Jiraiya, he quickly explains to him that he's his godfather and he's just happy to see him safe. So with that, Naruto, since Naruto basically completely pieced up the entirety of the Akatsuki, they returned to the village, and on Naruto's arrival, he was praised because Kakashi, while he was Hokage, he made sure to spread news of why people should be grateful to Naruto, because without him, they were literally vulnerable to being attacked, things like that. And with Naruto back, they've not only gained an important military piece, but they got back the future Hokage. Because in 4 years, Naruto would be appointed Hokage since, it's kind of a no-brainer. Naruto is the strongest being in the ninja world at this point. And nothing and no one could stand against Naruto. Well, maybe except aliens. But that is where I'm going to be leaving this one off. Guys, I'm tired after recording this one, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy that entire series. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a comment, tell me what you liked about the series, things like that. And yeah, if you liked it, and if you like my content in general, consider subscribing. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next What If.
And remember, like and subscribe. Or else.